All right, hello everyone. This is our first lesson in genetics for biology, for National 5 Biology, and I'm going to take you through the process of producing gametes. Now, these are all new terms to you. Gametes are the name we give to sperm and eggs. And we need these cells in order to make new individuals. The sperm and the egg fuse to make a new individual. Now, the question is, why do we need these intermediate cells? And the reason is that my cells, most of my body, most of the cells in my body, contain two sets of chromosomes. Two sets. I've got a complete set of 23 chromosomes that I inherited from my father, and I have a complete set of 23 chromosomes that I inherited from my mother. Now, so that means I've got two copies of chromosome 1, two copies of chromosome 2, etc., etc. Now, this starts to get quite confusing because we have copies of things, copies of chromosomes and plenty of them. So a human cell contains 23 pairs of chromosomes, or 46 chromosomes in total, 46 different individual chromosomes. So how do I get that into a cell that I can use for reproduction? Because sexual reproduction is one of the biggest evolutionary steps in the evolution of organisms on our planet, and the reason it's such a big step is because taking the DNA from two different individuals and combining it gives us great variation in our offspring. So how does that work? So let's nip over to the whiteboard and have a look and see. So what I've done is I've boiled this down to a much simpler organism than a human being. So what we have here is a single cell, and it has two different chromosomes. Now you say, hang on a second, there's 4 chromosomes there. Well, that's correct. But this one has 2 copies of chromosome 1 and 2 copies of chromosome 2. Because it has 2 sets of chromosomes, it is diploid. That's the term that's used. Di means 2. Ploid means of the genetics, of the genes, if you like. So 2 sets of the genes. All right? Now, in order to make cells that I can use for reproduction, I have to get rid of some of these chromosomes, because I can't fuse one of my normal cells with 2 sets of chromosomes with the normal cell of a female human, because we'd end up with 4 sets of chromosomes in the offspring cell. So what I have to do is I have to produce cells that only have 1 set of chromosomes in them. 1 copy of chromosome 1 and 1 copy of chromosome 2. So how does that happen? Well, it happens in the process of meiosis, which is a cell division process. It begins with something that looks very like mitosis, and we don't need to go into details in this, but the DNA replicates and produces 2 new cells. Then the next step in the process is that each of these cells divides without replicating its DNA, and we end up with 4 cells. These 4 cells each have a single set of chromosomes. 1 copy of chromosome 1 and 1 copy of chromosome 2. 1 copy of chromosome 1, 1 copy of chromosome 2, etc. Okay? So these cells, because they have 1 set of chromosomes, are known as haploid. They have 1 set of chromosomes. If you like, ha can mean half the chromosomes, if you have to remember it that way. Human adults are diploid. Normal cells in humans are diploid. Haploid cells are only the sex cells. And we'll come to what they're called in a minute. But they have 1 set of chromosomes. So that means that if this sex cell fuses with this sex cell, I would get an individual that has 2 sets of chromosomes again. It would be diploid again. That won't happen in this particular case, because if this is a male organism, these will all be sperm cells, and sperm cells will only fuse with egg cells. So these things are called gametes, these haploid offspring cells. And as I've just said, the male version are called sperm and the female version are called eggs. So let's just summarize again. We go from diploid parent cells. They go through a kind of division set, and we end up with 4 gametes. Now, there are reasons why I'm showing you this, so that you understand that a single cell can produce 4 gametes, but it's nothing really to worry about, and we don't need to remember that. What we do need to remember is that the gametes have one set of chromosomes, and male gametes are called sperm and female gametes are called eggs. The original parent cell that's in the testis, or in this case might be just a single-celled organism, is diploid. All right, has 2 sets of chromosomes. And we'll talk about fertilization and what happens next in the next lesson. So I hope that was clear. It can be a little bit confusing, these processes, and biology does odd things. There's no particular reason why it has that first division in meiosis to make these cells. It could just divide once without replicating, but that's the way it happens. So these things can be confusing. Try and get the ideas clear in your head. See if you can watch some other videos on production of gametes in sexually reproducing organisms on YouTube. The more you watch, the better it will be. If you don't understand it, try watching this video again. See if you missed something. If you still don't understand it, you can ask me a question in the comments. Otherwise, I think we'll leave it there and we'll move on to talking about genetics and how genes move between individuals and into offspring in our next lesson. So I think I'll call it a halt there. Cheerio, and I'll see you in the next lesson.